Yo, and welcome back to the Banter Boys podcast. My name is Sanji. With me is Ryan. How you doing, Ryan?
Yo, not too bad. How are you, man?
Alright, I'm glad that you decided to record the Euro 2020 content with me because I was planning to do fuck all for the summer break. Listeners, just warning, any good information, take it from Ryan, not for me. I'm just here for the banter. How's it going though, man? It was your first season playing draft with us on Fantrax. What are your thoughts about it?
It was eye-opening. Keeping track of the different metrics that you're not accustomed to from FPL. It definitely changes what you watch in the game. You're looking more for like key passes, you're looking for shots on targets, tackles, recoveries, clearances, interceptions. All of these things and now formulating it in your head, changing your eye test to suit. It was quite eye-opening.
Definitely, you made a really good run towards the end of our season. You almost made the playoffs. You had probably one of the best informed teams as well with Trent in your back line. Yeah, it was a little unfortunate to see you not make the playoffs, but you did have a very good FPL season, and I would say in general, we've been playing fantasy together, I think, for the past 10 years, 10 seasons maybe?
At least 10, yeah.
Yeah, and definitely like FPL is your jam. You had a really good finish last season as well, so maybe you want to give listeners a bit of history about, your fantasy career, I guess?
Okay, sure. We've been playing FPL, I think, together for about 10 years. We've played every international tournament, all the World Cups, all the Euro Cups for the last 10 years as well. I think I typically finish around top 100k in FPL, and in the international tournaments, I know I've been beating you consistently for about 8 years until you finally took over last World Cup, last Euro Cup.
Yeah, the last World Cup was definitely a blinder for me. I think I came 4th or 5th overall in our country. Mind you, our country's a tiny island in the earth, right? So I don't know what my overall rank was in general, but I'm sure it was like up there for sure. Did you end up like top 50k in FPL last season as well?
Yeah, I made top 50k.
Oh, man.
Well, if we're being specific, 50.9 or 50.7k. I round up.
You know what? I'm sure that beats at least half the listeners on this pod. But yeah, so we thought, because you and I, we do take our Euro and World Cup fantasy a bit seriously. So we thought, why not just generate some content, because we've been like up to date with even the friendlies, all the tournaments, the qualifying stages, etc. So you know what? Why not pod about it? We talk football all the time. Might as well give back to the community, right? We thought we'd give you a little bit of history just so, you're convinced to maybe keep listening to the future episodes. Because this episode, what we were planning to do was just like an introduction, just light stuff talking about the games that we're probably going to be taking part in, general predictions. And then for the upcoming episodes, I think we'll have 2 more episodes before the tournament actually starts on the 11th. We'll probably do like a forwards and mids episode and then a goalkeepers and defending episode. And probably episodes between each knockout stage, not really between the group stage games, because there's no like actual gap of days in the group stage games. So, reach out to us on Twitter and, you know what? I should probably insert, social media plug. I'll put in Ross's voice clip here.
Yeah, for sure. So you can message us on Twitter and Instagram. Our handles at BantaB. On Discord in the Draft PL channel, BantaBoys, #6585. On Reddit, /Banta_boys. You can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, SoundCloud, and YouTube, all under the name of Banta Boys.
But yeah, hit us up on the socials. If you have any questions during group stages, we probably won't pod then, but we can answer whatever questions you have. And then, like I mentioned a few minutes ago, we'll pod between the knockout stages, and then we'll see where we come out at the final stages, and then that will kind of roll us into the prep for the new season. Alright, so I guess we can talk about a few of the games that we're kind of playing in this season, right? You know what? I know we're not gonna like spend a lot of time on it, but why don't you get us started with the FanTeam game? We're not gonna spend too much time on it, right? So let's just knock that out one time.
Sure. FanTeam is, for those who don't know, it's like one of those daily cash sites where you can pay money and play cash games for all different kinds of sports. I think they're based out of Malta. And they ran an FPL season-long tournament. It was, I think, 20 euros to enter that. I think the top 5 or 5.5 thousand people got paid. The payout was pretty decent. I mean, I think it's like a 1 million guaranteed prize pool. First place won like 200,000 euros, and 5,000 who got about 35 euros or so.
And there's no limit, right, for the number of teams that you enter, is there?
No, I mean, you could enter from 1 team to 100 teams if you're feeling.
If you have that much money, yeah.
Exactly. But so FanTeam is running a Euro game. It's quite similar to the FPL game where you have 15 players, typical fantasy. The difference is with that and Euro, the official Euro site, is that they're not giving you multiple transfers between the phases. So you get one transfer each match day. So you really have to set a team from the early stages and make it count. You do get one wild card, but that's about it. Other than that, I mean, when we go into the players in the future pods, we'll talk about the differences between player prices, positioning, that kind of thing.
Well, I mean, for a game that's paying out that much, it's not surprising that their rules are kind of savage, right? With the one transfer sort of thing. So you have to get it right and, like, just hope that you have some sort of momentum going into the final stages of the tournament. It's funny, we had prepped everything to kind of talk about, like, the official fantasy game. And then Ryan messages me last night around midnight, dude, I found a draft website, a draft website that works. And I know we are all about the draft game, but yeah, we had nothing planned for it, but you know, we're still gonna jump into it, Ryan. So you want to mention the website and maybe the hiccups as to if somebody else wants to probably arrange their own league in that.
Sure. So the site is draftfantasyfootball.co.uk. We've used that site, I think, for a good few years now. We started playing draft, I think, 6 years ago. And we initially started on that side before you moved off to Toga and then Fantrax. So it's the same guy that runs that site. For the Euro version, it's euro.draftfantasyfootball.co.uk. And he only uploaded the site yesterday. And there is a big disclaimer that it says you do need to be a premium member of the site to create a league, to be able to see the point scoring, that kind of thing. But I think we're going to kind of circumvent that by forming one league, doing the draft on the site, but then we'll keep track of points on our own separately. I mean, it's really only 7 match days, so shouldn't be too difficult to do it manually.
Yeah, and I think we discussed off air, we'll probably just do simple metrics, goal, assist, clean sheet, penalty save. We probably won't do the ball recoveries, which is a funny thing because now even the official game has taken out ball recoveries from their scoring.
Yeah.
And I don't know, does the FanTeam have ball recoveries by any chance?
No, FanTeam doesn't.
Wow, so it's like an entire, like, across all platforms that they've just made this rule, which sucks, right? Because this is the tournament and these are the games that we look forward to owning your Contes, where he gets like 5 points for just doing his job, you know?
So, I mean, you say it sucks. I kind of like it. I think, so it's identical to UCL, right?
Yeah.
The official game. And I think everybody became too uniformed in their scoring. So if you had a really good week, you'd score like 70 points.
Yeah.
If I had a bad week, just because of ball recoveries, I'd floor at about 50 points. Like,
yeah.
The cheap players like Kante, like you mentioned, he'll score at 5 minimum, and I could splurge and get a premium player. If he just scores 1 goal, he gets 7 points.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I guess, yeah, there is that painful aspect. I mean, I've even heard like disagreements or complaints about the blessing of being able to change your captaincy from day to day. What are your thoughts about that?
No, I love that feature. That feature is... That is the only reason I play UCL and the only reason I play these games.
It makes you feel less shitty at fantasy sports, I'm not gonna lie.
That, and I mean, you can differentiate so easily. It allows you to punt so hard. Like,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You can captain the pie with no fear. Like
right. The first game of the Euros is
Italy versus Turkey. Yeah.
Most people are going to captain someone from Italy.
Yeah.
Captain someone from Turkey, it'd be different.
Yeah.
You have a shot at 4 other captaincies down the line, so why not take a risk, right?
That's a great point. I mean, you did suggest the idea for the Champions League final when we were setting our teams that I should just go with a back five for Chelsea. No one's going to be doing that. Or, you know what, there's a very small chance that a lot of teams are going to be having that back five. And you know what? It paid off in the end, right? So, definitely something to consider. All right, I guess, you know, now that we're kind of talking about that, the fact that we found draft, you know, let's talk about some approaches for draft or even like teams that you would target if you were in this format of the game, right? I mean, ideally, the first thing that comes to mind is you go for the people that you think are going to make the semifinals, right?
Yeah, the draft game, you kind of want someone who will go far, right?
Yeah.
Because if they get knocked out, you then have a team of duds that just won't play. You really want a team, even if they're just, you know, the midfield enforcers that don't really get points, ticking along 2 points per game is going to add up in those knockout stages.
Yeah, so, and the other tricky thing about some of these platforms is that they have like a 3-person limit from one particular team as well. So like, even if you have like a great option, like let's say Hazard falls to you, but you already maxed out on Belgian players, which I hope to fuck's sakes, you know, you didn't already at this point. But yeah, you might not be able to grab Hazard, and then you're gonna have to go, you know, grab like, let's say, a French player or a Portuguese player, etc., right? But okay, so like, you know how you made me do like the predictor thing just to see, you know, what our predictions would be like?
Yep.
The 4 nations that I ended up with in the semis were Belgium, France, Portugal, and Germany. What about you?
Yeah, the 4 nations I ended up with were Belgium, Portugal, France, and Netherlands.
Yeah, so why do you think Netherlands versus Germany? I guess that's a little bit of a debate now then.
I just guess no one has been talking about Germany, and their international performances have kind of dipped in the recent years.
Yeah.
I do think their squad on paper is very strong. Individual player talent is very up there. I just guess that it's funny, right? Timo Werner's leading the line, so
yeah, okay.
How much faith can you really place?
I understand that. All right, so what if we were in the draft right now? Who are the top 3 players that you're gonna go for?
Top 3 would probably be Golden Boot contenders that I think will go the distance. So Lukaku, maybe Mbappe or Griezmann.
Harry Kane?
Harry Kane, yeah.
Do you think you could possibly predict any of the Playmaker awards, like who would compete for that? We know Eriksen is like golden boy for the Danish squad.
So when you say Playmaker, that's most assists, right?
Yeah, most assists, whoever's taking set pieces, that sort of stuff, yeah.
It depends on if KDB makes it or not, right?
Yeah.
If KDB is in there, he's definitely up there. If he's not in the squad, then I think Hazard's appeal goes up drastically. That is, if he's fit.
Even though Hazard had a very quiet La Liga season as well.
Yeah, international is a different beast, right?
That's true. Yeah, definitely. And what about maybe Golden Glove? Like, who do you think could keep a lot of clean sheets this tournament?
I am surprisingly not keen on Italy.
Really?
Yeah, I think their tactics have kind of strayed away from, you know, let's be solid at back and just play a defensive mind game.
Okay.
Kind of focusing on the attack a lot more. It hasn't showed in recent days because they've still been keeping clean sheets, but I think in the tournament itself, I wouldn't bank on Donnarumma keeping most clean sheets, no. I think despite having a group of that, Loris is probably up there.
Yeah, I'm going to give France as well, just because the Kante factor.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe Courtois in Belgium, right? We don't know how they're going to set up as well. I still think like Belgium's going to go like all the way to the final. That is like what my prediction had gone to. But we could get some surprises, right? We could get a string of clean sheets from a group stage team that might not even make it out the group stages in the end, right? So
yeah, definitely.
The tournament is very funny over 7 game weeks. so we've kind of touched on FanTeam, we kind of touched on draft. Let's go to like the main meat of the pod is the official game for the Euro 2020 tournament. So one of our mates, Big Man Bakar, he's doing his threads. Go follow him if you need that information. Other accounts I can think of right off the bat, FPL Swede. He does a bunch of good threads. He's been doing threads on every group as well. I think he covered like the first half at least so far. Yeah, is there any other shout outs that we should give in terms of content creators or information that you think we should get people aware of?
Draft Hound, I see, have been doing a lot of Euro content. They've put out a predictive squad for each international team. Yeah, and then just follow the main guys on Twitter. FPL Sweet, like you mentioned, FPL Goat, I think, has been doing a lot of stuff. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, alright, sweet. Okay, so then let's jump into the main game. I mean, we're not gonna go into the details of this pod, that's for the future episodes, but I mean, just to like run through like the light rules and like a bit maybe about the chips that are in the game. Ryan, do you want to maybe shed some light about some things that people should definitely take note of, like ball recoveries for sure?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it's your typical fantasy game. You have 15 players. You target 2 goalkeepers, 5 defenders, 5 midfielders, 3 forwards. And you start with your budget of 100 million euros or whatever to flesh out your squad. I guess if you've played the Champions League game, it's very identical to that. If you've only played FPL, there are some slight differences. The main difference between Champions League, like you've been alluded to this whole time, is the removal of those ball recoveries. In Champions League, they were giving you 1 point for each 3 balls recovered. For Euro Cup, they haven't mentioned that at all, so it's very likely it's not going to be included. In terms of scoring and how you get points, the differences over FPL. In this game, you win 2 points for winning a penalty. In FPL, you typically just get an assist for that, which is 3 points. In this game, you lose a point for conceding a penalty. In FPL, there is no deduction for conceding a penalty.
Yeah.
In FPL, there's bonus. In this game, there is no bonus. And then one of the nice things that I like this time around is they're giving you an extra point if you have a player who scores from outside the box. So I think if you have those trigger happy players, I don't know, Bruno comes to mind, but that's really just his FPL type appeal. I'm not sure he has that quite with Portugal yet, but yeah, those kind of players come to mind. Set piece players who take all the free kicks from outside the box.
Ericsson, your Chakanoglu's. Is that how? I'm pretty sure I butchered his name.
Yeah, that was bad.
But the guy from Turkey who takes all the set pieces.
I'm not even going to try.
Yeah. I mean, set pieces for sure. Yeah. Like, Tony Kroos is another guy that comes to mind. I don't know. Somebody who likes to shoot from outside the box. He doesn't always score screamers, but he does like to pull the trigger every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, just Ronaldo. Come on.
Yeah, big boy, Ronnie. For sure. I think you mentioned as well, you get whoever also wins their own pen, they get points for earning that pen and scoring that pen as well, right?
Yes.
So that's also another big thing that you might want to go for guys that actually are really good at winning pens. Insert Raheem Sterling stat. For winning the most pens in the Prem or whatever bullshit that he's good at. There's definitely diving as well. So there's definitely like a lot of rules to take into consideration. And again, I always like to ring at the fact of the captain changes, right? Trying to captain somebody different every game week, but you know what? Have fun with it in the sense like you can afford to be differential if you have the likes of, Lukaku and Kane still to go, right? They still have to play and you're sure that, at least you're going to get points that way. But, if you can target somebody that gets 12 to 15 points in the game week that no one else can get, right? Go get that guy, right? Go captain that guy. Have a little fun in this tournament, right? Use it as practice for your FPL, because God knows I was fucking shite at picking captain picks in FPL last season. I think I got 400 something captain points. It was terrible, mate.
Yeah, I think I got 150 more points from you.
At least.
Just based on captaincy picks.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. Oh, by the way, does this game also have hits?
It does. So they break down the phases of the game into these 7 match days, like you've been alluding to. Group stage 1 matches all form part of group match day 1, then group stage 2, group stage 3. Then they move to round of 16, quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals, right? Those are the 7. Between each of the group stages, you get 2 free transfers. I think before round of 16, you basically get a free wild card.
Yeah.
And then you get
3 before quarterfinals, you get 5 before semifinals, and then 5 before the final.
Yeah, so any additional transfers that are not included in those free transfers will cost you 4 points.
Yeah. And the other thing as well, like, okay, so before we move on from the hits thing, what is your advice in general when you compare taking hits in like UCL and international tournaments versus FPL?
So hits, I'm pretty much on the same page as FPL. I don't like hits. It really is only if you need to field a full squad, I would take a hit. But I think the team construct is a lot different from FPL versus this type of game where you have dynamic substitutions, where you have captaincy changes. So in FPL, we typically keep a fodder defender, a fodder midfielder, and focus all our money on the core team that we will put into our starting lineup. In this game, because you have the ability to change your team in each given day and target players from every single team, every single international nation, I really think you should spend all your money evenly to solidify a strong bench. You have options that you could bring in if your starting 11 didn't play that or didn't perform well, that kind of thing. And really, one of the key things is if you start with a Turkish player and he scores -1 point in game day 1, hold off. Do not sub him out until the final day, because there's very likely you might have a player who scores like -2 points, -3 points. Take out that player instead. Don't rush.
I'm not gonna lie, I felt like that advice was partially driven towards me.
Kind of. As well as the no hits. Like,
yeah, I'm very. The thing is, when my season, this is probably a reason why we also didn't start the pod as like an FPL pod and was draft, because when it comes to FPL, like, I mean, I'm gonna sound like every other manager that I didn't start taking my OR seriously until last year. But no, seriously, I didn't, because like when we played FPL, it was always about winning our local mini league, right? Or winning my street league or whatever like that. And it was last season, I had like my best ever season. I came 13k in the world, yada yada, and then this season, absolute trash, like 600 something thousand K, like 600K basically. Yeah, so it was a real baptism by fire sort of season when, you know, you really consider OR and you consider rank and you consider hits. Because, alright, even last season, because I wrote off the entire season completely, I ended up taking, I think, around 100 points in total in hits.
what?
I'm very hit happy.
That is crazy.
So it's awesome that we have you on the pod, you know? You are the common sense behind it. I'm gonna be the jokes and the fun behind it. But yeah,
100 points?
100 points in hits. Yeah. So can you imagine, had I gotten my captaincy right and maybe not hit as much, I would have probably been a bit higher up, you know? Easily.
Yeah,
Easily.
that's the next 200 points at least.
Easily, right? Okay, so we talked a little bit about hits. Let's talk about now, at what point do you start to consider the rule where, you know, you have a maximum of 3 players from your same team, or maximum of 4 or 5, etc., right? Going up to the final, I think they allow you from 8 from the same team. When do you actually keep that, like, as an active rule that you need to be mindful of?
It's kind of strange in the group stages, right? Because your budget is only 100 million, and if you do want to go hard on one of those teams that you expect to go far, like the Belgiums, their players obviously cost a lot. It's good that they limit you to just 3, because you really probably cannot afford more than 3. When it reaches to the round of 16, I think it increases where you can now have 4 players from the same team, and you get an additional 5 million to your budget. So you now have the money that you can afford an extra premium player, that kind of thing. So I really don't take it on in the group stages too much. I really only focus on that when I reach knockout stages. Group stages, I'm trying to find those cheap differentials that will, you know, keep performing for me
Nego? I mean, it's been the popular pick amongst everyone, right?
I don't think he plays. I think he's just the cheapest in the game.
Ah, okay. Alioski, 4.5 defender on penalties.
I don't like Alioski though.
Who else is there? The P. Torres defender from Spain. That fullback. Isn't he 4.5 as well? Oh, Windal.
Yeah, he's
Windal is a
4.5.
wingback. He's 4 or something. 4.5 or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. The only player that comes to mind is like Chiesa. I don't even know how to pronounce his name.
Chiesa is like 7 mil, isn't he? Or 8 mil?
He's 7 mil.
Yeah. But how cheap would cheap be? Like, what if it's 5 million? Would you call Kante that differential?
So, okay, I'm kind of speaking to like a player. So, let's say you can't afford Lukaku. Who's the best midfielder from Belgium, right? Like
on which team?
Netherlands? Is Berg Huis or something like that? Or like even Wijnaldum, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you'd consider Souček a cheap mid, 6.5 goals.
Yeah,
scorer.
so like Souček is not bad. Yeah. Souček's not bad. The Ukrainian is like someone that comes to mind too. This
Malinovsky. Yeah, Malinovsky as well. Yeah, okay.
So he's the kind of player I'm thinking of, like.
Okay, so I think let's move on because we're not gonna jump into too much detail about like players to pick from
The
and
players,
stuff.
yeah,
We're gonna
exactly.
get to like the next episode where we focus on that.
Sure.
But I think now we can maybe cover some sort of like general strategy, right? Let's talk about the chips. I think that's a good way to kind of lead off.
Let's talk team balance first. No?
Oh, let's talk team balance. Yeah, sure.
So, I mean, it kind of leads on from where we were, I think.
Yeah. Okay, so in terms of selecting your squad, right? Let's talk about that. Would you suggest like automatically you should definitely have the highest player in the game at least? It's like a safe move, a safe strategy maybe?
So for knockout stages, definitely. For me, in the group stages, I like to be different. So right now, I'm not considering Ronaldo as my pick for game week 1. I like Depay more. I like Lukaku more. Yes, they're popular picks, but then I still like someone like
Arnautovic against Macedonia.
Exactly, Arnautovic. And he's not even guaranteed to be fit. So if he does play and fires, you make up ground for sure.
Yeah. First game week as well, right? It's always good to start with a healthy lead.
And he's a captainable option in like the second game week, right?
Yeah, definitely. So you can go on Twitter and go get like, the fixture tickers that a lot of people are putting up. Like for one, I'll shout out is Mr. Frig, what is it? Ben Krellin. Go check out Ben Krellin on Twitter, right? This guy is like the fixture guru. He does everything in terms of scheduling, rankings for fixtures, just predictions of when fixtures could fall into place, etc. He was basically like our light during last season when all hell was breaking loose. And more often than not, he got shit right, yeah? So I guess like one way to kind of strategize is maybe kind of pick out the teams that you want to target in the tournament, right? Because we talked off air about one of the questions I asked you actually was, do you think it's important to have players from every group in the tournament, or do we just target teams like, North Macedonia or like Scotland, etc.?
Yeah, I think it's a bit of both for sure. You want players that play every game day, and if they don't do well, you can sub them out with someone from your bench. And then you do want to target those teams such that you have a strong captainable option against those weak teams like the North Macedonias, the Finlands.
And do you have also any plans to maybe double up in certain attacks or maybe double up in certain defenses?
No defenses. I don't like to put all my eggs in one basket, at least in the group stages.
Yeah.
For attacks, definitely. Belgium is one of the most potent attacks in the game. I will be taking 2 attackers minimum from Belgium.
Yeah, so I mean, when we compiled the data from like the qualification group stages, right, and we put all the teams in the individual groups, I mean, a few of the teams that kind of came out on top just because of like the goals for that they scored, right? Italy ended up scoring 37 goals, Belgium scored 40 goals, Russia scored 33 goals, England scored 37 goals, Spain scored 31, and Germany scored 30, right? So maybe these are some of the teams that you kind of want to get their attacking assets from, right? And then you want to maybe look at, how many goals that they conceded. The teams that conceded the fewest goals, you might want to get clean sheets from them, right? So like Italy, they only conceded 4. Turkey only conceded 3, and I know, Ryan, you've been very high on Turkey this entire preseason, even during FPL. You think they could be one of the dark horses to kind of look out for. The other teams, Belgium only conceded 3. Ukraine, also another team that you kept alluding to, Ryan, they only conceded 4 in the qualifying stages. Poland and Spain tied for 5 goals only conceded. So maybe some of these are the teams that you want to get for those clean sheet sort of things, right? And the teams to target, the teams that scored the fewest and conceded the most, right? Wales only scored 10 goals. North Macedonia only scored 12 goals. Czech Republic, they only scored 13 goals. Same with Slovakia, only scored 13 goals. And Hungary only scored 8 goals. And if you look at the goals conceded, right? Macedonia and Scotland jump out straight away, conceded 13 and 19 goals respectively, right? So maybe you want to target these teams to pick your captains against these teams specifically, right? Anything jump out from what we kind of mentioned right there, Ryo?
No, yeah, I definitely agree with everything you just said. I think one additional dimension you could add to that is the venues. Because this is the first year that the Euro venue is changing constantly, each group has their home team. So Italy from Group A plays all their games at home. Denmark from Group B plays all their games at home. Netherlands Group C, England from Group D, Spain from Group E, and Germany from Group F. They're playing all their first 3 games at home, right? That's definitely going to be an advantage. And then if those teams sync up with the teams that did well, like you mentioned, the Italys, the Germanys, the Englands, the Spains.
Yeah.
Those are the teams I would be looking at for sure.
Yeah, so you could definitely get a healthy combination from all the kind of ideas we suggested, right? Keeping track of the goals against, the locations like Ryan mentioned. Because definitely, you saw even last season, the impact that certain clubs had without their fans, right? Notably Liverpool. Liverpool were absolute trash at home, right? So definitely home fans will play a role. Fans in general will play a role, right? So yeah, I think that's a great point to look out for. Anything else you want to look at in terms of general squad selection? Maybe staggering or having players for every day possible as well?
Yep, that's definitely up there. Especially goalkeepers. You do not ever want to have a goalkeeper pair that plays on the same day, because then you can't swap them out. So even in future days, you want to make sure for sure that your goalkeeper plays on a different day from your sub-goalkeeper.
Yeah, great point. Let's say I've got a bunch of amazing players for the last day. And it sucks, right? Because we've got a group with Portugal, France, and Germany. So it's really hard to want to have assets from all these teams knowing that they're playing against each other in the upcoming days, right? What would you say to a manager that, let's say, ends up with all these amazing players from these 3 teams, but they all play on the final day, right? And, let's say your initial starting lineup smashes it. You've got points already. You don't need to make your substitutions, right? How are you going to navigate that one?
Yeah, that's why I'm avoiding the group of that. It's really the toughest group to call, and the players are just too expensive for me right now, so I'm just avoiding them altogether. I'll probably target the one team that's playing Hungary each game day, but other than that, no, I'm not putting much money in there.
Yeah, so like we said, target the for sure easier groups, for sure easier teams, and just enjoy the football from the rest, right? That's all we can say.
Exactly. And I mean, with the fans back, like you mentioned, would Timo actually start scoring his goals?
You never know,
anything
right?
Can happen. Anything can happen.
Really can, yeah, for sure. Okay, I think now we can maybe look at some chips, right? What the game has to offer.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so the 2 chips on offer are both Limitless and an extra wild card. So I know we get basically a wild card to start the game, right? With any fantasy game, unlimited transfers.
Yep.
So we get a wild card right before the round of 16 as well, right? And we're talking about the official game. We already covered like draft and fan team. If you want more stuff about that, DM us, message us. Like Ryo for sure has a lot of experience on fan team. Draft, just hit us up, right? I'll let you guys know as well, like the Twitter handle to hit up Ryo specifically. If you think we're a bag of shite and you just want to talk to him, that's fine, right? As long as we're helpful in that way. The chips though, wildcard. Before, let's take them one at a time, right? What's your advice with regards to wildcard? Because we're hearing a lot of strategies flying around about using an early wildcard, maybe holding it on until like the quarterfinals. What are your thoughts?
So I rather discuss the limitless chip first. And for those who haven't played Champions League, limitless is essentially like free hit from FPL, except there is no budget constraint. So you can load up on all the premium players you want, right? And I think there's a lot of strategies out there right now floating about that suggest unless you play limitless in game week 2 or 3, you're not going to get the most value out of it. And I kind of agree with that. The player pool is going to shrink. The easy matchups are going to shrink. So I think in the group stages is probably the most ideal time for your limitless chip. There is some argument for holding it maybe for quarterfinals, but yeah, I'm targeting in the group stages. I'm not sure yet if I want to use my unlimited transfers to start up, just pick a team for game week 1, then limitless, so I have a fresh team for game week 2, and then who knows, I might wildcard for game week 3, or just ride it out with what my original team was. Or do I want to load up with a team that can navigate the first 2 game weeks well and limitless for game week 3?
Yeah. And we talked about another thing from the last tournament as well. Remember when England basically threw their last game of their group stage as well, right? Just so that they could get the easier playoff route in the World Cup. I think it was Belgium and them in the group, right? So that's another thing that you also have to be wary of, right? You never know how teams are going to tactically play their last group stage game. They might be intentionally playing for that loss, just so they could, have that easier route. So those are things that you want to consider maybe when planning your limitless, etc. So part of me also feels that, game week 2 might be a better time than game week 3, right? Because you have that first game week 1, all that information, all that knowledge. You also will see how groups are poised, who has like must-win games, who are teams that you can definitely target, who maybe teams that you thought would smash it that are like absolute shite in reality, right? So you get a lot more information at that point. And like Ryo said, you have a lot more premiums to kind of pick from, right? So the pool is better to pick from. So I think I'm kind of leaning more towards a game week 2 limitless than a game week 3, because I'm afraid of that rotation, because we know rotation's there, right? We're hearing like interviews coming out every now and then, even while the friendlies are being played. Players are saying that, we're trying out this new system, but I've been used to this system. So there's a lot of chopping and changing that could kind of come through, right? Harry Maguire might not even be there for the group stages, right?
Yeah, a lot of things are still up in the air for sure. I agree with what you said. Game week 2 is probably the most ideal. But if you're looking to be different, there's an argument for game week 3 or maybe even quarterfinals.
Agreed. Let's say it lightly again before we move on from Limitless. Who are like some of the players immediately you think of, like you're gonna put in right away?
Kaku for sure. Ronaldo. Well, unless you're doing that. Well, game week 1 is really the only good week for Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Kaku, Mbappe, Depay, Bale, Eriksen, KDB or Hazard, whichever one is fit.
Yeah.
And then you can get all the premium defenders you like. So Jordi Alba, who I'd never considered at his actual price. Now with Limitless, yeah, he's in.
Yeah. Maybe some premium goalkeepers as well, right?
Oh, for sure. Couture.
Yeah. Or maybe Pickford, if they come up against that Scotland fixture as well. That's maybe an option.
I mean, you did say Maguire may miss out, right?
Yeah.
Do I trust Cody? Do I trust Mings?
Yeah, we have no idea how England's gonna line up, man. Because I've been listening to like some athletic podcasts with like Carl Anka and stuff, and they discuss the possibility of maybe Kyle Walker or Reece James playing in that right centre back position, right? England might roll up the back five because they have no Harry Maguire. So you might see a lot of out of position players as well that might not be out of position in the way we like to think about it, right? Where they're playing further forward. So that's some other thing to kind of be wary of when you're playing your Limitless. just, have an idea of where the players are playing, out of position, etc. Like Serge Gnabry is one that I'm really high on, that I would like to bring on in a Limitless. He kind of gives me that Mo Salah vibes. He's listed as a midfielder, but pretty much playing as a forward, right? And he looks like he's always involved in any attacking play that Germany has.
No, yeah, definitely agree. I like Gareth Bale. I mean, he's the key man for Wales. Listed as a midfielder again, playing as a forward, so yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I know we moved past this, but a shout out to the FanTeam. Pick Gareth Bale. He's only 6 million and out of position in that game. So
yeah, that is
and you get points for shooting on target in that game or having shots in that game. And we know Gareth Bale definitely will be on some set pieces and stuff, right? So
yep.
Bale is definitely another out of position premium player that you could pick up on Limitless. I think now we can probably move on to the wildcard chip.
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead, yeah, kick us off.
For the wildcard, I think that's more played by ear. If your squad is doing really well, I don't think you need to use it in the group stages. I think if your squad from game week 1 is not doing that well, you do use Limitless in game week 2 to make up ground, and it reverts back to your game week 1 squad, then maybe you want to use the wildcard. But I definitely think later on in the game, if some upsets happen and teams get knocked out, you could have had, after the round of 16, 8 teams get knocked out.
Yeah.
You could have had one player from each of those 8 teams. Now you're down to, I don't know, half a squad, right?
Yeah.
You can't take as many hits hits are expensive, so a wildcard is an easy way to pull you back in.
Yeah, even when we play UCL, that's also something that you also like to constantly advise me on, is don't go too heavy on one squad as well when you're doing the playoffs and the knockouts, right? Because again, you say, it is a very unpredictable tournament, right? And especially how last season has gone in general. Football in general is so unpredictable. One of the smaller sides might make it to the Final Four. You never know, right? So, like, let's say you're loaded up on, like, Germany and they get knocked out in the group stages. You're fucked, right? If you don't have your wild card or something like that, right?
No, yeah, and it's definitely possible, right? Group of that.
Yeah.
With this weird third place, you have to do well to make third place and get a spot in round of 16. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so definitely try not to overload on one team. Try to spread it out or whatnot. Again, you have confusions about picks, hit us up. Message us at BanterB on Twitter, right? Yeah, and the other, I mean, with wildcard, you have that round of 16 wildcard, but do you think you could potentially maximize that, I want to say, quote-unquote, free wildcard that they're giving you, maybe by using the Limitless chip around it in some sense? Do you think you could kind of combine those two in a strategy?
I think it's a bit more difficult with this game. I mean, I know that is definitely usually the FPL approach, but anything can happen. And if you get back your old squad, players that you had might be out of the tournament. It's hard to really say.
Yeah, that's true. All right. So I don't know what else we had planned, really. I think that was kind of like the gist of things that we kind of wanted to get our feet wet, just get listeners aware of what's going on, things that kind of jumped out at us. I'm actually gonna run through my latest draft on the official game, if that's okay. Just so the listeners can kind of get an idea of where our heads are at. So up front, I've got Harry Kane, Lukaku, and Arnautovic. In midfield, I've got Ferran Torres, Yuri Tillemans, and Thomas Suchek. In defense, I've got Spinazzola. I think that's how you pronounce his name, or is that how you even say his name? Yeah, Spinazzola. Leonardo Spinazzola, Italian defender. Thomas Meunier, Belgian defender. Selic, I believe he's a Turkish defender. Windal, he's a wingback for Netherlands. And Hradecki. Oh my god, we're gonna butcher so many names this series. I'm just gonna warn people. And on my bench, I've got Tim Krul, because Silesen has been ruled out of the tournament, right? So Tim Krul, cheap 4.5 goalie, go pick him up. Serge Gnabry, Nego, who's been like the popular cheap fodder that everyone's been going after, and Benjamin Pavard. What are your thoughts? Any initial I hate that initial?
Not bad. I did start with Pavard as well. I kind of removed him because group of death.
Yeah.
I didn't want that last game week player.
Yeah.
I don't like Nego because I don't think he plays, and I think with this game you really want to optimize all 15 playable players just so you can make full use of your bench.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I mean, that was a bomb forward lineup if Arnautovic is fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the defense. Yeah, it could work out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I'm gonna tinker on this, because I agree with Benjamin Pavard, Gnabry, group of death. You never know what's gonna happen, but I think I would want at least one person from that group of death, right? Do you want to maybe run through what your latest draft looks like as well?
Sure. So, I mean, this is a work in progress, but up front I have Ronaldo, Lukaku, and Arnautovic. In mid, I have Chiesa. Again, you said we're going to butcher names. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce it, but yeah. Chiesa, Mount, Malinovsky. I think he's going to be great for Ukraine. Maybe not first up versus Netherlands, but hey, let's see how it goes.
Yeah.
Alaba and Bergwijn from the Netherlands. In defense, I really like some of the 5.5 defenders. So Spinazzola, like you mentioned, Munier, Ricardo Rodriguez, who's on penalties.
Yeah.
And then 4.5 defenders, I have Windal as well, Selic as well. In goal, I have Portugal's goalkeeper, which I believe is Lopez or Lopes, however you pronounce his name.
Is it not Rui Patricio? Really?
I don't think so. I think he's been dropped a while now.
Okay.
And then I have Finland's goalkeeper, who I believe is just 4 million. Herdecki or
Herdecki.
Or
Yeah. Oh, sick. Okay, yeah, that's great. We kind of have like similar picks, so that leaves me with a little bit of confidence moving into the tournament. But again, this is subject to change. You never know, there might be injuries leading up to the tournament, right? So I had a look on Flash Score. I think there's at least 23 relevant friendlies leading up to the tournament. I believe like the last game is on June 9th. I think it's Portugal in that last game. So there's still like a lot of information coming through, right? Your picks will change, your captaincy will change, your general strategy might change, right? So just kind of try to get as much information every day as possible. Be on Twitter. There's a lot of like content creators that are posting information for free, right? Good free content that you can use to make better judgments, right? And even if you're not playing fantasy, you might be playing those prediction game with your friends, right? Predicting who comes top of the group or who wins the overall tournament. This podcast might even help you win some money. So you never know, right? Okay, so some like closing points and stuff. I know we didn't really get to know our... Oh, is there anything you want to add in terms of final points?
Yeah, one thing you mentioned about the friendlies and just things will change.
Yeah.
I mean, look at yesterday. England played and Trent got injured. Luckily, the UEFA has been very lenient this year and allowing squads to change their final squad. So Trent will get subbed out. I mean, it remains to be seen who gets pulled in. Maybe Ward-Prowse, maybe Lingard, maybe some centre-back to back up the very thin lineup they've put out. But yeah, things like that can definitely happen. So be on the lookout for that as well.
Yeah, men were dropping like flies towards the end of the regular season, man. I won't be surprised if we see a few more injuries before the tournament is done.
Definitely.
Alright, so before we wrap things up, and it's probably something I should have started with, but Ryo, do you want to maybe tell the listeners a little bit about yourselves, like the team you support, where you're from, which part of the world you're living in, you know? Just so they can get a little bit of context before we sign off.
Sure. So I am from Trinidad and Tobago as well. I support Italy as my international team. I support AC Milan as my club team. We've been seeing hard times, yes, but we're back in Champions League finally. I think I first met you in university when we both studied in Canada, that's how we built this relationship.
How long has it been? Like maybe 13, 14 years that I've known you.
It's about 14 years.
That's quality.
And football has been such a strong part of that, right?
Yeah, definitely. Like it's since then we've I want to say almost as unhealthy as it sounds, maybe it's unhealthy or healthy. We've had daily chats for maybe 13, 14 years about fantasy football.
No, yeah, definitely.
Like Like, the fact that we were able to pull up the history from our World Cup chat with ease when we were looking up the ranks and like, oh shit, what did I finish? Da, da, da. So
It's only getting worse too, right? Because you finally
it really
came,
is.
you finally joined me and played IPL Fantasy. We're now talking about doing multiple drafts next season. Like,
Yeah, I know. And
it's
IPL
bad.
was such a good, like, tournament to play, man. I was so upset that okay, pandemic aside, like, obviously people's lives are more important, but I was smashing it in that IPL tournament, man. I remember, like, when we started, I was like top 10k in the world. I forgot to play for 2 games, and yeah, I was just like having the greatest time because FPL was so shite, right? So
right.
yeah, okay. But yeah,
It's coming back around, eh?
yeah, it's
In September, they're going to do it over.
yeah. So
resume.
I definitely have to pick up where I left off. But other than that, I think we made a good head start to the information that we kind of wanted to put out, right? If there's anything that we missed, we'll tweet it from the main account at BanterB. The next time we record, we're planning to record, I think, on Saturday. We should have an episode out this weekend. We'll probably look at like 2 of the positions in the game, right? Be it a combination of forwards, mids, forwards, goalies. I don't know. I think we'll discuss that off there, clean that up, because we don't want to put out too long of a podcast, right?
Right.
And forwards and mid combination might be too massive, so let's see. But other than that, Ross, I almost called you Ross. Ryan, do you have any final words before we sign off? Any last comments?
No, just like you said, hit us up if you have any questions and if we left out anything. And yo, I can't wait.
Yeah, alright, let's fucking do this, baby. Alright, we will see you on the next episode, listeners. Peace.